All right, so what's in the box? Nail clippers for cutting line, a fish hook remover, needle nose pliers. Those are all must-have equipment. Let's start with some weights. I like the bullet weights. They slide. And then I have barrel swivels that I use to connect the main line to leader line. They just have a ring at each end. These happen to be size 7. I like that size. I also use these snap swivels for my lures. Again, one side has the barrel with an eye and the other side has the snap part for opening up and then putting on your lure. And then as far as hooks go, single egg hook, size 8 for trout. This really works for power bait. You can also put these little plastic rat tails on them. I actually like to do a little bit of both. I cut the little rat tail part off or find a little skinny rubber piece and then put a power bait nugget right below it. And then we've got bait holder hooks. These are good for night crawlers. They have a longer shank and 2 little barbs on the shank. That helps to keep the worm on. I hook it through the neck once and then come back through a second time really close to the neck. And then I also will inflate the worms with this worm blower. It's got a little syringe at the end. You just stick it in the worm, squeeze, and it puts some air in it. That helps get the worm off the bottom, and that works really well for trout, bass as well, and even catfish will eat night crawlers, so it's one of the most versatile bait options. There's this kind of hook that I use for plastic worms. So you hook one of these guys to it so that it's going through the middle, the top of it like that, and then the bottom is dangling off and the tip of the hook is embedded inside. You throw that around cover and along the bottom and just kind of bounce it around things and bass like that. A couple of bobbers to float some bait off the top, or these little jigs can be used with the bobber, but I like using these by themselves. These are really good for panfish. They have a weighted head, usually bright colored, and then a little curly-Q tail, and they're fairly small, but these work well for bluegill, crappie. Throw them around weeds, a lot of weeds, and the crappie and things are usually huddled up in the weeds and then they jump out and get this. So throw it inside weeds, or better yet, or even around the weeds, parallel to the weed bank. And then my lures, as I mentioned before, this is my favorite. This is the Gold Cast Master. 3/8 of an ounce is my favorite size. 1/4 ounce is good too. They catch all kinds of fish. For trout, I like a Thomas Buoyant, particularly this red and gold color. That does well for rainbow trout. And then a little assortment of these crankbaits that you pull through the water, through the top of the water. Trout and bass go after those. As far as bait goes, different kinds of power bait. I find the glitter rainbow to be the most effective if I had to pick one, but I usually have a little assortment. Some scent for worms especially. They're usually specific to trout, so I get this trout one and I put that on the worms. I mentioned the rubber worms. Leader line. Your line on your reel for river and lake fishing, probably 4-pound test or a 6-pound test. So I get, 4-pound or 3-pound for my leader line, and a fillet knife, and one of these big huge crankbaits I use for bass. They really like the rainbow trout, small rainbow trout, replica type things, and they'll hit that too. And that's it.